What is up, guys, and welcome back. And as always, thank you so much for watching. So as you know by the title of this video, we're going to be talking about rooftop decks. And rooftop decks is something when we were looking for a cabin or a space out here, it was kind of a, dare I say, a good to have. I thought it was really cool. When I first started looking at like prefab cabins, shipping containers, whatever, site built, whatever you name it, if you go into the Googles and you look at rooftop decks on cabins and shipping containers, there's a lot of cool stuff out there. And what I really liked about it wasn't so much the visibility like we have up here, as you can see, but it's that it takes up no extra space. So in other words, you can use the space you've already got without removing trees or anything like that. Now, I will go ahead and say, I would love to add more decking around this cabin. That's something that may come in the future. But depending on your situation, if you've got one of these in your backyard, maybe there's codes, maybe there's something that you're not allowed to do anything. I don't know. I'm just saying it. Maybe a rooftop deck is for you. So for us, whenever we decided to go with a shipping container, the first thing we did, of course, was do all the basics, just make sure we've got, electrical done, make sure we've got everything livable and all that. And rooftop deck was kind of a good to have. So I started talking to the guy that was helping us, and he had never done this. The company that worked on these, I don't think they had ever put anything on the roof like this before. But he mentioned that, since we're talking about a steel container, I don't see it's going to be all that difficult. So he kind of came up with this idea of using the angle iron, which we're going to get into in just a moment. I want to kind of walk through all the little stages we did to build this. It's actually came out pretty cheap and pretty easy, even though this is something I was willing to put some money into. But let's go take a look. We're going to start at first how they actually put the mounts on the cabin. Unfortunately, I have no video footage of us doing this. This is before our YouTube channel and all that. But I'm going to roll in some pictures as we go, as it was being built, to kind of show you guys. Maybe it'll help you out along the way, but let's go check it out. So from down here, it may be kind of hard to see, but what we started with, and I'll get up there here in a second to show a better picture. But what we started with is they basically took these pieces of angle iron, as you can see here. I love my little finger pointing, like that's helpful. And that stuff's it's almost a 1/4 inch thick. It's just shy of that. And each one of those is also drilled through in order to mount our joists up there. Now, what he wanted to make sure of is that we didn't have any weight on top of the roof. So everything is mounted along this brace along the top, but nothing is mounted on the actual rooftop. And we'll show you that in just a moment. And on this side over here, you might actually be able to see it a little bit better. You can see where those just go straight up. So I'm going to roll in right now some pictures of the cabin when we first got it. So you can see there how they're just kind of sticking up. It probably looked pretty funny going down the road whenever they delivered it. But that's what they did. They just literally went in and TIG welded all of this angle iron. And they also went ahead and drilled the holes for me. I did ask them to do that because I ain't drilling through 1/4 inch steel out here with a drill that much. I would have probably given up, thrown the drill in the woods, and just left it, because that would have been a lot. But it gave us a really good starting point. And these, I believe, are 16-inch spaced apart. I don't know. Let's go look. Let's go take a look. All right, let's see here. We're at there. And yep, 16. So you can see there, 16, just your typical 16-inch center there. Perfectly fine. And under here, I'll give you a good view. Yes, it's dirty. I need to clean this. That'll be another video for another day when it's not in the 30s out here. But what they did is they put these, again, like I said, on the side where you have more stability. And there's nothing on the actual roof part up in here where it's a little more hollow. Now, I'm not an engineer. I'm not even a builder. And I don't know anything about these containers other than what I'm looking at here. But it made sense just because it keeps it on the more structural part of the cabin. And another thing that he recommended, and I ended up doing, is you can see every one of those joists, which we'll get into in a moment, are spaced up. So all we did is took, when we were working on it, and I'm going to roll in some pictures as well showing the joists in just a moment. But when we were working on it, we just took some 2x4s on each side and just spaced each one of those up. And what that does is that allows us to clean. So you can see all those pine needles come over here. You can see that pine needles there in the back that we need to get to. But the good news is you can clean that stuff out and nothing's going to stay there and start rotting it. Now, honestly, this thing's probably going to rot after I rot. So I don't think it's going to be much of a problem. But it does help. You can get out here and you can clean all that up. But that's pretty much what we started with. Now, one other thing too, I will mention, is when they put these on here, if you go this route, if you decide to kind of replicate this, just be warned, you may not have all these, perfectly aligned. And we learned that, and we had to find a different way. So we had to make sure when we were putting our joists on that we measured against the side of the cabin and not with this, because these were not all perfect. They're welded on there, but just, that's something we realized when we got about 4 of them in, and we had to go back and rip them up and start over. It wasn't a big deal, but lesson learned on that, that's for sure. But that's what they did. They just literally did that. The most expensive part, honestly, was probably buying the steel, because steel is not cheap, and then just having somebody weld it. I can MIG weld a little bit. I wouldn't trust my welding skills to something where me or my family is going to be up here. So they TIG welded it for us. But that's pretty much the foundation as far as how it started. For the joists, these are actually 2x8s. And of course, everything is pressure treated. Now, I said earlier in other videos they're 2x10s. So I'm wrong, but they are 2x8s and they worked very well. And one thing to notice here, this is the important part that I really put some thought into, and I'm glad I did. So as you can see, I'm backing up. Hopefully I don't trip. And you can see the deck is a little wider than the actual cabin. And that's on purpose. Let me just go with 10 foot and I'll make it 9 foot total. So what I did is each one of these joists was cut and a foot was cut off. So it made the cuts really easy. And the reason is we wanted some overhang. No, not because we're going to jump off or do anything weird, but if we have to mount anything to it, like a railing I need to do, or the ladder that I've got on there, I didn't want anything to interfere with the cabin itself down the side, or the angle iron that's right there. I didn't want it to get in the way with any possible modification. So trying to keep my life simple, I said, okay, let's just order 10-foot boards. We will take a foot off of each one and then just center it up. And then when we were centering it, that's where we got into trouble, because we were using the angle iron instead of the side of the cabin. Once we figured out what measurement to use, using a speed square and stuff like that to just line it up, we knew what to do on each board. And then we just used a C-clamp. And then once we got the C-clamp up there on each side, we drilled through the wood. And then we used the impact to put our hardware in. And those are 3/8-inch bolts that are grade 8, zinc plated, and they have nylock nuts. So they are not going flipping anywhere. And they are torqued down pretty good. So we were very happy with that. I'm going to roll in right now and show you guys what it looked like when we were installing them. You can just see kind of the bare cabin top as well as some of the boards going in. It's pretty easy because you can walk on top of the cabin. I just wouldn't put a deck on it like that, going on top of the actual roof part itself. But the joist did very well. They made it pretty easy. And we were going for easy cuts. We wanted as minimal cuts because we're out here in the woods, and it just made life a little bit easier. And yes, we did have lumber delivered here, because there's no way my little Toyota truck is gonna it ain't gonna haul this stuff out here. So we did actually find a place that could deliver it. So that was helpful and very awesome. So let's go on up here, up the ladder, show you guys the decking, as well as I want to explain a little bit better how this hardware went on these joists. So now you can see it. So this is the hardware holding one of the joists on. This is the best picture I can get. Can I get one on the other side? Yeah, here we go. So what we did, so for example on this joist, even though it's hard to show, this was C-clamped to this. So all we did is we spaced it up, so nothing had to be held up. You literally just take these 2x8s and set them down on the 2x4 so they're evenly spaced up. Once you figure out your measurement side to side, because these cabins are 8 feet wide, that's why I thought of, man, if I could have just gone with 8-foot boards, it'd be easy, but it wouldn't give me my overhang. Once we're happy with it, we just use some heavy-duty C-clamps to hold it here, drill through the wood, use the same drill or the same impact to put this hardware in. You're good to go, not going anywhere. And let's see if I can get up here without falling with one hand. There we go. And for the decking, so the decking is just your standard 2x6s. And as you can see right away, we didn't alternate the boards at all to have to kind of hide that line. And I'll explain just a second. And that does drive my OCD nuts, but it works. So what we wanted to do up here is I wanted to be able to put these on without having to make any cuts. That's right. We did this entire deck without any cuts. So what we have is these are 2x6s that are 12 feet long all through here, right? And then on this side, they are 8 feet. It doesn't take a math genius to say that's roughly 20. I say that because these boards are actually a hair longer than 12 and a hair longer than 8. Just depends on where you get them. That's how it is sometimes. So what we did is I'm like, okay, let's start with these. And then they happened to line up where one of our joists was. So we thickened up this joist underneath it. So there's 2 on this board, or 2 on this mount, excuse me, going across. And it made us an easy junction point for both of our boards to butt up. Now, if I had it to do over again, which at one point I may have to replace this decking, I would probably alternate them to give them a better look. But then you're going to have a different mounting point as well. So to me, this was the best way to do this without having to touch anything other than line it up, make sure you get your spacing in between, of course, and just use the impact and put the deck screws in. And that's all we did. And we went all the way down to each end, spaced them out evenly. It worked perfect. And we did do some sideboards. I don't know what they call those. Is it a skirt? I don't know. If you know, put it in the comments. Again, I'm not a construction guy. I don't work with wood. My experience is in a garage, not out here. But we figured it out, and it worked very well. Now, one thing here. If you've seen the videos and pictures, I'm sure, plenty of times by now with the overhang. And I'm not going to get too close because it starts to make you feel a little weird. This is the last joist right here. You can see the line of deck screws on the front of the cabin. And so we actually had some overhang, and the reason is because this mount right here, this joist, and this joist back here, and this one you can actually see pretty clearly, they don't go to the very end of the cabin. So you still have, about 4 or 5, whatever inches, I don't know what it is, however many inches inside, if that makes sense. So they don't go the full 20 foot. That's why we had overhang. So what we were going to do is just take a circular saw and just make a cut all the way down at the end. But when I got down, guys, and I saw how it looked, I'm like, man, that looks pretty freaking cool. That overhang. You can hang lights on it and all that. And yes, we've done that. But it has a cool look. But here's the one challenge, and this is something I need to do. Railing. So I can easily get a railing down the side because I've got that board on the outside. Can easily do a railing down through here. And same here. I can easily get a railing. Down here is going to be a bit of a predicament. So either I'm going to have to cut this, and I may end up doing that, or if I can figure out a way to get creative to do a railing. And my thought is, don't hate me, just think about it, doing a cable railing with steel supports. I don't know, just thinking about it. It would look cool. Kind of goes along with the whole steel, industrial look out here in the woods. But just a thought. But this cabin may be getting moved, and I've said that before, so we're not going to do that just yet. But it's up here. But this made it, folks, really easy. The hard part was just running the bajillion deck screws through there, which I kind of regret in a way, because if I have to pull these up, that's going to be an absolute nightmare. But they could come up. But that's it, and it works, and it's stout, and we love it, other than my OCD right here. And lastly, probably the biggest headache of this entire project was access. Now I'm going to explain this ladder setup here in a second, because this was by far the simplest idea that I had in my brain. So we went through some different ideas. Number one, can we do a staircase to attach it here? That's the purpose of having this overhang. You can get stuff on there. But then we planned to move this cabin maybe. And also I just didn't want a bunch of stuff on the side cluttering it. They make all kinds of kits you can buy, but man, you're talking about so much freaking money on something that I think in lumber we were like $750 in. That's it. So I didn't want to go around and spend like another $1,000 or some ridiculous amount of money just to get access there. So we did this, and let me explain why. So the ladder is the perfect height. This is a Home Depot ladder. Cost me maybe $70. Now this was in 2020, everybody's favorite year. So it's probably double now because everything's so expensive. But Anyway, we bought this ladder, aluminum ladder, and at the same time, I'm like, you know what? This ladder, if somebody came out here and stole this ladder, I'm only out about 70, 80 bucks. So it was not the end of the world. Also, if a tree took it out, which it's possible because we've had trees land on this cabin, if a tree took this ladder out, then I'm out of ladder. But what we did is we used this ladder to start building it so we could get access. And then I took some pieces of 2x4 here and here and put some on the bottom so we could attach it. So let's go up there and take a look and show you how it's attached. Okay, so this is the most crude thing on the face of the planet, but man, it works, and it's been out here for 4 or 5 years now. I can't remember. 4.5 maybe. Something like that. Birds, man. It's like I'm getting attacked by some birds out here or something. So all this is a piece of metal that goes through this rung of the ladder. Not all the way through it. It's just in there maybe a few inches. Just some scrap pieces of metal I had in the garage. And a deck screw. That's it. Literally, that's it. And I've got a nut there just to space the deck screw out. And I'm sure that's wallered out and doesn't even work. We are going to take the ladder down in just a second to show you how quick it comes down. And then I put these there just to kind of tighten it up so it kind of grips a little bit when you put the ladder in. So it's kind of a nice tight fit. And then the railing, I did go ahead and put these posts up, or it's not really a railing, but went ahead and put these posts up with the cool little toppers just to make it look, you know, cool for no reason other than to spend money. And I did that just so when you're going up the ladder, you can put your hands on it. It really makes access much easier, and this just keeps it from moving. And this ladder just literally stays out here. That's all it does. Undo those with the impact, drop it down, and you're good to go. So the beauty of having a ladder out here is if I need to do some work and I require a ladder, which I do because I put tree stands up, put ladder stands. I don't put them up high. But if I'm putting one up that's on a hill to where I can get to the back of the tree much easier than the front, I can take this ladder off this cabin, take it in the woods, and use it to safely get up there. So there's many purposes. I can also disconnect the ladder and go all the way around and clean, which I need to do because it looks like complete crapola up there. So that's the nice thing. Not only do you have a ladder out here that's cheap to get up there, but you've also got a ladder out here to use if you need to. But let me show you guys real quick how this disconnects. It's really nice and easy, and you can have this thing down in no time. So all I'm going to use to remove this, I can show you better, this gem right here. If you're looking for an impact, no, I don't have any affiliation with DeWalt. I have no affiliation with anybody. These things are awesome. This DeWalt right here, this little, just so you see the size, this little guy right here installed all of the joists on this cabin and all the deck boards. It's phenomenal. So if you're going to do this, highly recommend this. But we're going to use this to go ahead and take this ladder off. See if I can, I didn't even think about dropping stuff. Let's see here what we get. See, comes right out. Let me set this camera down so I don't drop this. And you can see, guys, all this is just a piece of scrap steel. Something I literally would have thrown out because I like to reuse stuff. I do not like to throw stuff out. And that just kind of holds it in. No, it's not structural. It's not going to like keep anything, you know, massively bad from happening. It just kind of keeps it in place and keeps it, it just keeps you feeling a little safe when you're going up it. One thing I may do, and I probably will, is put a piece of all thread through this, or maybe just a very large bolt from the back side, because this will be going through 2 2-bys, so roughly 4 inches, if that makes sense, through this one, and then through this joist or this side piece as well. So what I might do is just put some all thread through here, where I can put something stronger and then just put a wing nut on the end of it. Just something that'll last, but quite frankly, this has been out here for almost 5 years and it still holds perfectly fine. So, hey, if it really works, is it a dumb idea? That's what I say. Let's get this other side off and show you guys how this ladder comes down. Super simple. So as you can see, it comes right down. Simple as that, ready to go. And all we got to do is extend it back up and lock it into that spot. Perfectly easy. So we'll just go ahead and put it back up. And as you can see, it was that easy. Of course, I left my impact up there. That's fine. Went right back in. It took me longer just to set up this silly camera than it did to do that. Oh, and we do have some stones down here, just some cheap stuff at the hardware store or whatever, just to keep it level. So I did make a little level pad there just to kind of give us a good base, and it makes it secure. And even if it was on a hill, you could build that up. You could actually build that up or dig one of them out and make a level spot. Easy enough. Even if you're on a hill, it works. So that works. It gives us access, and we love it. It is great. Well, guys, we're going to wrap this video up here. This definitely wasn't your normal or usual deck that you would put on a house or a cabin or anything like that. We had to get creative. I'm sure there's some things that we did that's probably not up to some people's specs or codes, but that's fine. We normally don't do things, according to the rules, hence no rules life, right? But we wanted things to be simple, and also if something broke, it would be easy to fix. And everything out here on this cabin so far, we've tried to keep it very robust. You think about the ladder, for example. We could spend a lot of money putting a ladder or staircase on, but I just think about as close as these trees are to this cabin, and that's for good reason. We want to keep the trees around it. I didn't want to come out here and see $1,000 spiral staircase that I bought, ripped to shreds because a giant limb fell. Now that could happen at your house or anything. Just didn't want it. And also with the usage of this ladder for stuff that we do out here, it made perfect sense. If you have any comments or questions, put them down below. I want to hear about them. I want to hear some ideas maybe that you guys have, or if you have ideas for a railing, or if you have questions, put them down there. Would love to hear about it. Also, in the description below, I'm going to put a link to our No Rules Life garage page that we have. If you go to our page for No Rules Life, you will notice some motorcycle content to start out. That's because this page kind of started out with all that together, and I decided to split it up, and I think that was the right thing to do. So if garage stuff is your thing, go check it out. If not, that's okay, understood. That's why we split the content out. But anyway, I thank you guys so much. Please don't forget to hit that subscribe button to help us out, and we will chat with you folks next time.